Welcome, everybody. Hope you're well today. I'm James. I'll be your host for CommunityFIT, and in particular, this MoveLab class. This class is brought to you by a comment or a question from last week, all about sacrum. So we are going to have a sacrum pelvis oriented or centered class. Having said that, we're going to do a lot of different movement because the sacrum is a very particular part of your body. And if you're like, I don't even know what my sacrum is, James, if you think about your pelvis, and then you kind of go to the back side of the pelvis, and the sacrum is really, or what is commonly thought of as the sacrum, is really the lowest part of the spine. It's the lower portion of the vertebra and the tailbone. So you got to consider hips, you got to consider back, you've got to consider legs, you've got to consider abs and such when we're talking about all of that. So that's what this class is going to be for, because again, this whole entire series has been co-created with you. It's all about questions and answers. What do you need to learn? What is interesting to you right now? Where do we need to move toward? And that's what we're going to do. So normally when we're dealing with sacrum, I would have us using some props. Today, you're just going to need a mat or sort of a rolled up towel, and we're going to work with that. We're going to switch the order. Normally for MoveLab classes, as you know, we always start with breath work or nervous system warm-ups and then get into movement. But because we have a lot to cover today, we're going to simply start with some breath and then an awareness practice, sort of as our nervous system warm-up and a guiding light toward what should you be looking for in how something feels in these movements. Because especially, well, in movement in general, but in particular when it comes to sacrum and pelvic and hip joint health, wellness, well-being, the same movements that will trigger pain are the same movements you need to do to alleviate pain. So I can't give you something, they don't exist, the fix-it exercises. Instead, it's how do I require my body to move in new and interesting ways without hurting myself, and instead moving towards satisfaction, joyful, easeful movement. So it requires you to recognize what spaciousness, nourishing, movement, and sensation feels like in your body. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with our most powerful breathing exercise. We're going to start with the physiological side just to sort of get that nervous system warm up going. And then we're going to move right into our spaciousness practice. So if you're familiar with our stress reset classes, this is something we cover a lot in that class. So physiological side, double inhale, single exhale. So inhale, inhale. Exhale. 4 more of those. Inhale, inhale. Three more. Last couple. One more. Right into our spaciousness practice. We're going to start off with orientation. So just look around the room, and I want you to objectively notice things that are in the room. So here that might sound like a plant, mirror, water bottle, chair, mat, hand, computer, camera, door, window, whatever's in your room. You're just noticing it. You're noticing the things in the room, the things that make up the room. Once you feel like, yep, I understand this, then we're going to switch gears and we're going to notice the spaciousness in the room, the negative space in the room, the space where there is not stuff in the room, space you could move through, places you could put stuff if you wanted, the spaciousness, the empty spaces in the room. Just notice how much more spaciousness there is in the room than there is stuff in the room. And then you can have your eyes opened or closed, your choice, but go inside to your internal landscape. Notice the inside experience. And notice somewhere in your own body, somewhere in your own self that feels especially spacious. Like there's room to move, like there's openness. What other words come to mind? When you notice spaciousness in your own body, how would you talk about that? Does it feel warm? Does it feel cool? Does it feel expansive or really dignified? Does it feel red or blue? What does it feel like? How would you describe it if you didn't have to describe it in logical terms? Just notice spaciousness in your own body. And in contrast, notice somewhere in the body that feels especially lacking in spaciousness. Maybe it feels congested or in pain, tight, triggering, traumatized. And just notice that. Notice how that is a differing set of words, that there is a different way to describe that. There's a different sensation there. And notice how it's a choice. You can pay attention to the areas that feel especially spacious, or you can pay attention to areas of congestion or lacking spaciousness. They both exist. And when you attune to that lacking spaciousness, that congested area, it brings up a different emotion. It brings up a different awareness in your body. But if you notice that congestion, that tightness, notice all around it is spaciousness. That is how you are able to notice the congestion. And when you start to notice that spaciousness, the congestion starts to kind of just open up on its own. Now, I gave you this practice because today we're looking for spaciousness. We're looking to center ourselves around creating spaciousness, particularly in the pelvis and in the hips and in the sacrum area, no matter what it is we're doing. We're going to be doing some physical movements to move in that direction. But as I mentioned, the same movements can cause pain if you get stuck thinking about the pain. If you get stuck thinking about how do I fix this? What am I doing wrong? I always hurt myself when I do these things. It's just going to take you down that road. And instead, you've got to make some choices around what it is you're paying attention to, how it is your mind and your body are connecting, and how are you going to navigate this practice. Now, I can't handhold you through this because this is not a private session. So if you find that this session is difficult, this class is difficult for you, you can reach out at james@jamescrater.com. We can book a private session no matter where you are. We can do it virtually and we can work through this because this is a sensitive area because we hold a lot of emotions, a lot of tension in the pelvis. So when you get stuck today, think about that. Now, as mentioned, you're going to take your mat, you're going to roll it up. If you don't have a mat, you can take a towel and roll it up that way. I'm going to roll mine up to a little tube. This is about as much as I want. I don't want much more than that. If you have like a nice soft ball, not a soft ball, but a nice soft orange sized ball, grapefruit sized ball, you can use that instead. That would be my preference. From there, we're going to lie on it so that just your sacrum is on the mat. So I don't want my low spine necessarily on the mat. I want my sacrum on that mat. I have my feet substantially open wide. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I'm going to allow my pelvis to feel wide. I'm going to imagine my hip joints feeling wider. I'm going to imagine my rib cage feeling wider. I'm going to allow my tailbone to soften and widen. When I do all of that, gravity pulls my pelvis down. This prop blocks the sacrum, so essentially pushing the sacrum up as the pelvis goes down, which creates some space in there. Now, if you suffer from SI joint pain, this might already be kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to go there. You've got to build up the trust to get there or decrease the size that you're elevating. Maybe it's up too high, go down a little bit. Just kind of be here, noticing spaciousness. Can I feel my body get more and more spacious? Now, I can stay here, or I can drop my right hip towards the floor, and then my left hip toward the floor. Right and left. Right and left. 4, 3, 2, 1. Find your center. There's a tuck and an untuck. It's like a cat-cow for the pelvis. Find your center, drop your right leg straight, and just let gravity do her job. Can I soften? Can you soften into that? And slowly collect that leg, do the other side. Now, we're in a class, so of course I'm speeding things up a little bit. If you want to, pause. Pause on one of these that feels important and just be there. Then both legs. I can feel my pelvis, the muscles want to tighten up. So I'm just going to notice. Can I let my body get more spacious and relax into this just a little bit more? Collect one leg, then the other. Tuck and do a little bridge up. Remove the little platform and come all the way down and just be here. Maybe you want to do a little pelvic rock, forward and back, side to side. And release. Bring your legs together. Crisscross, right ankle over left knee. Now I see this stretch done poorly all the time. Here's how I see it done. This knee comes here and you sort of do something like this. Instead, my right foot is on my left knee. My right knee is going to do its best job to try and touch left ankle. From there, I'm going to lift left leg. Right knee is still trying to swing around and touch that ankle. If I can get there, I can tuck. And there's tension going on here. This knee isn't passively moving this way. It's actively pushing that way. And then release. And we'll do the other side. It's not a passive stretch. There's action. This leg is externally rotating. The knee is moving away from my chest. Then this leg comes here. I'm creating resistance as I do that. And then back down. Now, again, if it was just me here alone, I'd probably hold those for a little bit longer. There might be some micro movement, but for now, knees come to my chest. And I'm just going to hold it here, or right knee pulls towards the floor, left knee goes toward the floor. I'm just choosing to hold my knees. I can hold my ankles. I can hold the big toes. This is sort of that classic happy baby from yoga class. However, here's how we're going to shift it. Right leg pulls out straight. Then left leg pulls out straight. Watch out for your plants in your environment. That plant is going to dictate. I can't go this way, so I'm just going to pause here and figure it out. Just kind of moving around a little bit. And then slowly release and relax. My knees and feet are going to come together. They're going to drop over to one side and then dropping over to the other side. Dropping over and over. Now, if that feels like it's doing a lot of work, keep doing that. I'm going to separate my knees and my feet. Dropping over, that changes what's happening. Dropping, dropping. I'm going to go even wider. Dropping and dropping. and then finding your center. Collect your feet, hold. Put your hands on the front of your legs. Just lifting your head as if to touch your knees, and then come back down. Lift your head, then try your best to touch your knees, and then back down. Now, that's level 1. Give this a go. Notice how your sacrum is on the floor. Can you allow your sits bones to widen, your tailbone to widen, which should feel like an arch in your low back, or like your low back is lifted gently away from the floor. Now, I'm not lifting my ribs. I'm not pushing my ribs up. It's a pelvic movement. Put your fingers there. Try this. Tuck or move the sits bones closer, the tail further away from the floor. Lift your head. Now try to touch your knees. Come back down. Release, relax the sacrum. It gets wider, it gets softer. So we're just shifting it. You can just do the thing, or tuck and then lift. Down, release. Tuck to lift and release. Tuck to lift and release. Or change your mind about it. Allow the sacrum and the sits bones and the pelvis to stay relaxed. Allow the low back to stay gently arched. It's a natural arch. You're not trying to arch it. Then keep that there. Lift and only go up as high as you can go. And then back down. Lift and then back down. Or lift, hold, tuck to lift higher. Untuck, see if you can stay that high, and back down. There's a lift, tuck to come up higher, stay up that high, untuck, back down. You should feel your low back muscle work for that. Lift, tuck to lift, hold, untuck, low back work, all the way back down. One more of whatever you're doing. Up, up, untuck, all the way back down. Simply turn over onto your side. I'm going to adjust my mat back to its place. Turning over onto your side, you choose which side you want to lie on. A lot of that sacrum stuff is because we're not exercising for our hip joints as well as could be. So let's change that. Top arm is going to lift up. Top foot does its best to come up and touch hand and back down. Again, foot comes up to touch hand and back down. Now, no one said you had to keep your legs straight. So if you get here and you're like, can't do it, bend your knee and get there. Touch and go. Touch and go. Touch and go. One more. Touch and go. Now, put a hand on the top of your hip joint here. Imagine that left or top hip and bottom hip are totally stacked. See if you can get your foot up that high again, however high that was, without the top hip rolling backwards or forward, and then back down. You'll notice that you got to do a thing with your leg, because if you just lift, that hip has to gently roll back. The thing you have to do with your leg to get there is that leg needs to start to move forward a bit as it goes up, 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 and then back down to stack, stack, stack. If you do that, I guarantee what you'll feel is some butt cheek muscle really working to get there. You gotta get your mind and your body connected and be really honest about not letting that pelvis roll backwards. One more of those. All the way down. Take your top leg, reach it out in front of you. Let it touch the floor, let it lift up. Touch the floor, let it lift up. Do that without letting the pelvis move. Not only not letting the pelvis move, can you allow your sits bones to be wide, your tailbone to be wide, spaciousness in the ribs and in the low back. 4, 3, 2, 1 more. Rest. So workout for the hip and the booty. Other side. Starting off from the top arm is going to lift, top foot comes up to touch hand. However you get there, you get there. You're just creating some limberness to tackle for the rest of the series. 3, 2, 1. Hand on hip, a refusal for that pelvis to move, starts to lift. You got to make some choices. For me, that leg's got to come forward gently to go up, 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 and then back down, 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 down. Up, 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 right about there. I got to come slightly forward to keep going up, and I got to really work for it. 2 more. One more of those. Take it down in front of you and lift. Down, touch, and lift. 3, 2, 1. And release. Go ahead and sit all the way up. Now, again, most people, let's go right into some seaweed spine. When we are thinking sacrum and pelvis, often we're thinking it's a continuum. It's like, well, the sacrum belongs to my pelvis. The fact of the matter is that sacrum, that tailbone belong to your spine. So you've got to be thinking, well, if that sacrum is stuck, where else am I getting too much or too little movement in the rest of my spine? And can I just figure out, am I moving my neck? Am I moving my ribs, my rib spine, my low back spine to both directions equally? Where else can I move my spine better so that it frees up that sacrum area? From there, turning onto your belly. Taking that right leg out to the side like so. I like to have a hard flex of the foot, and I like that knee to be parallel with my hip joint, and I'm all the way down. I now start to pay attention to the space in the groin. I would like my right groin, that's this leg, to be as close to the floor as I can get. And I'm going to hold there. Now, for a lot of people, that's enough to just stay there and breathe and hold. Because this is an area that's tight. If you sit in chairs a lot, if you don't get on the floor to sit, if you don't squat a lot, if you're not doing hip, consciously moving through your hips, your feet, and your low back a lot, your body morphs into the shape of your chair and you get tight in these areas. You're not a naturally tight person. You're not an inflexible person. You are someone who has not required their body to learn mobility and flexibility. And if that's interesting to you, over time, you have to expose it to new environments and new ways of moving. You got to do things like MoveLab to earn the right to do things like this with your leg. From there, you can lift your foot without lifting the groin any higher and back down. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. 2 more. Lift and lower. 1 more. Lift and lower. Now, this next one, here's what you're not going to do. You're not going to lift your knee and roll onto your other hip. You want your pelvis, your belly, your ribs to stay on the floor. You want this foot to stay on the floor, and then you're going to, with everything you have, try to lift that knee a fraction of an inch and back down. You may even want to put a hand on that booty cheek and just feel the muscle contract and release. Contract and release. More is not more here. You're looking for spaciousness. You're in charge now, not me. Just lifting and lowering to the best of your ability today. 2 more. 1 more. Release. Other leg. Take it out to the side. For so many of you, that is enough. Right there, that is enough. So at the end of class today, when we go to comments and you're like, that one hurt my SI joint. And I say, well, did you pause when it hurt? And you said no. I don't want that question today. I want you to go, oh, look, that's enough. Right there, I'm already feeling lacking of spaciousness. Pausing there. Then, if you can, lift your foot, lower it down, lift, and down. 3 more. Lift, 2 lift, 1 more lift. Try your best to get that knee to hover. It may not happen, and that's fine. The goal is not more height. The goal is to figure out how to contract the butt cheek in this range of motion, in this very precarious position. Lift. 2 more. 1 more. And down. Stretch both legs straight. Bend your knees. Bring your feet together. My right foot drops. My left foot traces. Other side. 4, 3, 2, 1. Find your center. Come up to a hands and knees position. Go into a regular cat-cow. Around my back like a cat. Right into cow. Cat and cow. Cat and cow. Then go into neither cat nor cow. Relatively neutral. Hold. Imagine you now have a bowl of water on your ribs and you don't want to spill it. Can you do a cat and a cow in the pelvis? Cat, cow. Cat, it should feel narrow in the sits bones. Cow should feel wide. Then find your center. Can your tailbone points to the right and the left without the ribs going? Right, left, right, left. So we had an up and a down, and we have a right and a left. If we add those together, all of a sudden we get like a hula hoop going on in the pelvis and low back area. Or like you're drawing a circle with your tailbone on the wall behind you. And reverse. My arms are working to push the floor away. Tuck your toes. Come back, do a little bounce. So much of that pelvic stuff is coming from lacking of flexibility, lacking of movement, down in the feet and the ankles and the legs. Now, as I go back, I'm only going to go back so far that my pelvis can stay wide and spacious. I'm not going to go back and go into a cat. I'm going to refuse the cat. You might feel compression in the hip joints. It might feel like work going on there. A little bounce and forward. 3, 2, 1 more. Right foot travels up and tries to make friends with right hand. Hold. I'm going to imagine my pelvis comes forward towards that foot and backwards towards the other foot. Forward, so it's at a diagonal, and backwards, it's at a diagonal. Now, as you remember, the same movements can trigger some SI joint pain, as can alleviate. So if this is too much, pause. Go back to one of the more satiating, nourishing movements. Other side. One more. Go ahead and sit on the floor. Just get there. However you get there, get there. In the top of the class, in the comment section, I wrote, what's good posture? Because everyone has somehow learned what good posture should look like. chances are what you learned is incorrect. Posture is a snapshot of movement, and all day long, that posture should be shifting and changing. So one of the most common questions we get here in MoveLab is, hey, James, if I can't sit like however it is I've sat during the class, how can I end up doing what you've done? Well, learning to floor sit. So practicing, what does it feel like to sit like this? And then transition to this, and then transition to this, or like this. It's like a fidgeting, but in how you're sitting, especially after if you have SI joint pain or low back pain or hip joint pain. After you have used the treadmill, rode your bike, gone for your walk, done your exercise for the day, get on the floor for 3 to 5 minutes and just floor sit in different ways. It's essentially, because what we end up doing is sitting in chairs or going into our car to sit, and what ends up happening is like you've warmed up your body and you're like molten steel, and then you sit in your car, you sit in a chair, you don't pay attention, you put on your tight fitting clothing again, and your body congeals, it hardens into those shapes. So instead, sit on the floor. I call this like commercial break activity. As you're watching TV at night, for the length of a single commercial break, can you just get on the floor and sit in a number of different ways? And I bet this particular area of your body will respond positively. So thank you for joining us for MoveLab. Put your hands on your heart, take a nice deep breath into your own body and tell yourself thank you. As you've seen today, today's class was influenced by your surroundings. So tell your surroundings, thank you so much. They influence you, and so does the community you're keeping. So thank you for inviting us into yours and for showing up to our community. We really appreciate it. This is the last week of this section of classes, so I hope you join me for Stress Reset tomorrow and Thursday, or tomorrow and Friday, and then again for MoveLab on Thursday. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, James. Just a really quick announcement while James is looking at the questions there. Tomorrow, I know a lot of the participants on CommunityFIT are California State workers or CalPERS employees, and just wanted to let you know that we are doing our live open enrollment webinar tomorrow. You should have gotten a notification, I think, through CalHR. It's at it's from 2:45 to 3:15, and I'm going to be doing a little talking about some of our wonderful wellness and fitness benefits that we have. And then you can also learn about our health plan if you choose. So hope to see you guys tomorrow. If not for that, definitely for CommunityFIT. And any questions come up, James?
Nope, just a lot of like, thank you for doing this class. I really needed this. So yeah, we need more like pelvic noted. Next section, we will have much more of this sort of stuff in there.
Yeah, I love that cat cow, or that rotation, like the hula hoop, you know, when you're doing the cat cow, and then you kind of start going in different directions and you realize just how intricate the whole pelvis is, you know. It's like, and it makes you realize, like, hula dancers and those fusion dancers.
Right. Wow. And even more so belly dancers, where you're really having to articulate very specific areas. And what it comes down to is our body maps, like how our brain knows where our body is just really dumb in like the trunk of the body and in the pelvis of the body, and really smart in other areas. So it's always, you know, it's always surprising when you go to move. That's why, especially when I teach people, you know, like release work in the hips and the glutes and all of that. And it's like, when you really start foam rolling or ball rolling or considering it, all of a sudden you're like, that is a really big area. Like, I did not realize that I have all of that meat on me.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that was a great class. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
all right, everyone. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, James. Thanks, Raymond.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.